The Galactic Council chamber was carved into the heart of a hollowed asteroid, its walls inlaid with crystal veins that shimmered like cold fire. Delegates of 100 species hovered in their levitating thrones, speaking in clipped tones that echoed across the chamber. Every eye turned when Archduke Xyrix of the Carthage Dominion rose to address the assembly. His broad scales glistened under the pale light, and his voice carried the smug weight of an empire unchallenged for centuries. "Humans," he announced, his mandibles clicking in disdain. "Creatures born from mud and sea foam. They multiply like vermin, spread into sectors that are not theirs, and claim dominion where their presence is a trespass. They build colonies without permission, raise fleets without sanction, and dare to defy the order that has ruled this galaxy long before their kind learned fire. They must be corrected." A chorus of alien murmurs followed. Some chuckled, others hissed agreement. To most of them, humanity was a problem to be solved, an inconvenience that could be erased with one decisive strike. Councillor Trin of the Zithel waved a claw. "A single punitive fleet will suffice. Their ships are outdated, their crews untrained, their courage brittle. One example will teach them to remember their place." Archduke Xyrix inclined his head, eyes gleaming with cruel satisfaction. "Then grant me the honor. 600 vessels of the Dominion stand ready. With my command, Velis 9 will burn, and Earth will kneel." No voice rose in protest. The decision was unanimous. The Council believed it was merely authorizing a swift extermination, not a war. Xyrix stepped back, pleased. He already imagined human outposts reduced to ash. On Earth, far from the Council's chamber, Admiral Elias Veyron stood in the shadow of the Fleet Command spire, gazing out over the Atlantic Defense Yard. Towering ship frames gleamed under floodlights as engineers swarmed like ants over armored hulls. Each ship was more than steel. It was a promise that humanity would never kneel again. The command chamber behind him buzzed with tension. Generals and civilian leaders argued in low, urgent voices. Veyron turned, his presence silencing the room. "They're coming," he said flatly. "We have confirmation. The Dominion fleet has been authorized. Their destination is Velis 9. President Ilaria's hands tightened on the table's edge. 600 ships? We can't match that. Not with the colonies so scattered. What are you proposing, Admiral? Evacuation? Surrender? Veyron's gray eyes hardened. Neither. We have something they don't know about. He keyed the holodeble, and the room filled with the projection of 20 sleek warships unlike anything seen before. Their angular hulls bore no registry numbers, their cores powered by technologies still kept under seal. Plasma lances bristled along their frames, and neural AIs integrated every ship into a single, flawless network. The Fleet Vanguard 1. This fleet has been kept off every registry, hidden from the Council's spies. It was designed for one purpose, to fight the war everyone knew was coming. They think we'll meet them with outdated destroyers. They're wrong. General Castro's frowned. Admiral, these ships have never seen combat. The systems are untested. If they fail, they won't. Veyron cut in. His tone was iron. Velis 9 isn't just a colony. It's home to 2 million of our people, families who believed in our right to exist beyond Earth. I will not abandon them to satisfy alien arrogance. We stand. We fight. The silence that followed was broken only by the steady hum of the holodeble. One by one, the leaders gave nods of grim agreement. Humanity's course was set. Velis 9 orbited a white star, its surface rich with forests, oceans, and sprawling cities. On the ground, sirens wailed as evacuation ships lifted off, trails of fire cutting across the sky. Families clutched children, rushing toward transports that could not carry them all. Fear spread faster than flame. From orbit, defense platforms turned their cannons outward, awaiting the inevitable. The picket fleet stationed there, a meager 60 frigates and corvettes, watched sensors light with the growing shadow of the Dominion's arrival. Captain Arden, commanding one of the Velis 9 defense ships, transmitted urgently to Earth. We can't hold them, Admiral. They'll be here in days. We need. You'll have support. Veyron's voice answered across the stars. Hold position until I arrive. Don't waste lives in suicide runs. Buy me time. The channel cut, leaving Arden with only the approaching storm on his screens. Aboard his flagship, the Resolute, Veyron walked the length of the command deck. Officers rose as he passed, their eyes following him with quiet respect. He paused by the viewport, watching the fleet assemble beyond, the hidden monsters of Vanguard 1, each bristling with energy, their cores pulsing like beating hearts. Commander Lyra Hale, his second-in-command, approached. Sir, most of the crews are green. They've trained in simulators, but nothing matches live fire. If they falter, they won't, Veyron replied, though his voice carried the weight of his own doubts. He looked at her, softer now. The Council thinks we're weak. That arrogance blinds them. It's our advantage. We strike fast, precise, and we break them before they understand what they face. Lyra nodded, though her jaw remained tight. Then Velis 9 will stand. It must, Veyron said. His eyes lingered on the stars. My brother died defending one of our colonies from their punishments. I swore his death wouldn't be in vain. This is where we prove that humanity bows to no one. Far across the void, Archduke Xyrix's fleet cut through slip space, a tide of steel and fire. His officers crowded around the command dais of the Dominion war barge, boasting of how quickly they would reduce Velis 9. Xyrix listened, savoring their confidence. Humans spread like weeds, one captain sneered. But weeds burn easily. Xyrix's mandibles curved into a grin. Then let us bring the fire. The stage was set. On Velis 9, colonists braced for doom. On Earth, leaders placed their faith in untested weapons. In the void between, two fleets sped toward collision. The Council had written humanity's fate as submission. Admiral Veyron intended to rewrite it in fire. The darkness of space split apart with a cascade of rupturing light. 600 warships of the Carthage Dominion tore out of slip space above Velis 9, their hulls jagged and cruel, lined with enough weaponry to scorch continents. The armada spread in disciplined formation, a wall of firepower that blotted out the stars. Archduke Xyrix stood tall on the bridge of his war barge, the Vengeful Oath. The chamber around him glowed crimson, lined with banners of conquest. Officers hissed reports, their eyes glinting with certainty. The human defenses are negligible. Platforms primed for destruction. Their ships are laughably outnumbered. Xyrix's mandibles curled into a satisfied grin. Then burn them. Let Velis 9 be the lesson. At his command, the Dominion fleet unleashed hell. Beams lanced across orbit, tearing through the human defense grid. Orbital stations burst in silent explosions, their debris tumbling like dying sparks. Velis 9's picket ships darted forward, firing desperate salvos before being shredded one by one. On the ground, colonists watched as the skies lit with streaks of fire. Children pressed against shelter windows, wide-eyed as fragments rained down. Sirens wailed without pause. Evacuation ships struggled to lift, weaving between falling wreckage. Fear settled like ash. In the command deck of the Resolute, Admiral Elias Veyron stood calm against the storm. His crew exchanged nervous glances as reports streamed in, defenses collapsing, lives lost by the second. Commander Lyra Hale leaned closer, voice tight. Sir, the outer ring is gone. Velis 9 won't last an hour. They won't need an hour, Veyron said. His gaze fixed on the tactical display, where the alien armada filled half the board. Signal the fleet. It's time. A single order carried across the void. Moments later, space itself shimmered. Tier after tier split the darkness, and 20 warships of Fleet Vanguard 1 ripped into reality. Their arrival was a storm of brilliance, angular hulls gleaming, engines howling like thunder. They emerged in a precise crescent around Velis 9, shields flaring alive. Alien sensors shrieked in alarm. The Dominion's front line hesitated. These were not the human ships they expected. On the Vengeful Oath, an officer cried, Unidentified vessels! Their signatures don't match known Earth craft. Xyrix's expression hardened. Irrelevant. They are still human toys. Destroy them. Veyron raised his hand. Fire! The human fleet moved as one. Plasma lances burst from their prows, incandescent beams that carved across space. In seconds, Dominion cruisers split apart, their armored hulls melting like wax. Missiles, guided by neural AIs, darted between enemy screens with impossible precision, detonating deep within vulnerable cores. Commander Hale reported. 3 enemy squadrons destroyed in the first volley. The crew erupted in disbelief. Veyron remained steady. Maintain formation. We strike until they break. Vanguard 1 pivoted like a single organism. Stealth frigates phased into invisibility, vanishing from sight before reappearing behind the enemy. Their cannons gutted command ships, severing lines of coordination. Alien captains, long used to overwhelming numbers, found themselves flailing against an enemy that anticipated every move. The Dominion countered with raw fury. Hundreds of ships converged, filling space with torrents of energy. Human shields flared, buckling under relentless assault. On the Resolute, consoles sparked as waves of fire hammered the hull. Shields at 60%! Hale shouted. Redirect power! Hold the line! Veyron ordered, voice unshaken. Through the chaos, his eyes tracked the battle's rhythm. Every Dominion maneuver was predictable, rigid, bound by tradition. Humanity's ships adapted like predators, exploiting every misstep. Veyron keyed open comms to the fleet. Remember why we fight. For Velis 9. For every colony that believed in our future. Do not falter. A chorus of acknowledgments surged back. Spirits steadied. Aboard the Vengeful Oath, Xyrix's arrogance began to waver. His tactical screens filled with red icons, lost ships, broken wings. This is impossible, he snarled. How can a primitive race? They anticipated us, his strategist stammered. Their weapons cut through our plating. Their coordination, it's beyond anything in record. Xyrix's claws dug into the command rail. Then crush them by weight. Press every ship forward. Drown them in fire! The Dominion fleet surged. Waves of destroyers slammed into Vanguard 1's outer flanks. Battles became brutal knife fights, ships colliding at close range, tearing chunks from each other. The Resolute shook under impact, hull groaning. Enemy boarding pods incoming! Hale warned. Intercept them. Veyron snapped. Repel with everything. Across the decks, Marines braced. Pods slammed against hull plating, doors burst, and alien warriors stormed through in a tide of claws and steel. Human defenders met them in brutal combat, corridors flashing with muzzle fire and blade strikes. The Resolute fought not just in space but within its own veins. Above Velis 9, the battle tilted once more. Vanguard 1's plasma lances fired in coordinated rhythm, puncturing the Dominion advance. Frigates darted like wolves between giants, tearing apart carriers. One after another, alien ships exploded, their hulks drifting lifeless. Still, the cost was heavy. 3 human vessels burned, their crews lost. The Aegis Dawn, a Vanguard battleship, fractured under concentrated fire, vanishing in a violent implosion. Silence fell briefly on the Resolute's bridge as names scrolled across the casualty log. Veyron's jaw tightened. They'll be remembered. But we hold. Hours dragged into an eternity of violence. The void filled with wreckage, glowing embers of shattered fleets drifting like a graveyard. Yet humanity remained, battered but unbroken, their circle around Velis 9 still intact. Commander Hale's voice cracked through the haze. Admiral, we've destroyed nearly a third of their armada. They're losing cohesion. Veyron's gaze locked on the central icon, Xyrix's war barge still intact, still rallying what remained. Not enough. Break the head, and the body collapses. He leaned closer to the display, eyes cold. Set course for the Vengeful Oath. On his bridge, Xyrix stared at the carnage, disbelief etched across his scaled face. Hundreds of Dominion ships gone. The humans, creatures he considered beneath notice, were standing against him. Rage consumed him. Signal every surviving captain, he barked. "Rally around my command ship. We will crush their leader. His death will end this charade." The galaxy's balance had shifted in hours, though either side yet knew how far the consequences would reach. Humanity had shown its teeth, and the Dominion's arrogance had begun to crumble. As the Resolute surged toward the heart of the enemy fleet, Admiral Veyron's voice carried across calms. "This is the turning point. Hold steady. Today, the galaxy learns what it means to cross humanity." The Resolute cut through drifting wreckage, its engines roaring as Admiral Elias Veyron drove his fleet into the heart of the Dominion formation. Ahead, the monstrous silhouette of the Vengeful Oath loomed, a war barge 3 times the size of any human ship, its hull bristling with cannons. It was more fortress than vessel, and at its command stood Archduke Cyrix. "Target acquired," Commander Lyra Hale reported. Sweat streaked her brow as the ship rattled under enemy fire. "Every surviving enemy craft is converging to protect him." "Good," Veyron said coldly. "That means we've found the throat. Now we crush it." He opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships form on me. Priority target, the war barge. Cut down anything in our path." The response was immediate, a chorus of determined voices. Humanity's battered fleet surged forward. Plasma lances fired in perfect synchrony, slicing apart destroyers and corvettes that hurled themselves into the line of fire. Explosions littered the void, each detonation opening the way closer to Cyrix. Inside the Dominion flagship, chaos reigned. Tactical officers shouted conflicting reports, screens flooded red with losses. Cyrix stood unmoved at the center dais, though fury burned across his scaled features. "They still advance?" he snarled. "Yes, Archduke," his strategist stammered. "They drive directly for us. Their fleet fights as if bound by a single mind." Cyrix slammed a clawed fist into the rail. "Then break their spirit. Focus every gun on their flagship. I want it destroyed." Orders rippled outward. The Vengeful Oath unleashed its full arsenal, torrents of fire converging on the Resolute. Space lit with blinding fury. "Shields collapsing!" Hale shouted as the deck buckled beneath them. Sparks showered consoles, and smoke filled the air. "Hold her together," Veyron barked. "Return fire." The Resolute's lances punched back, searing through enemy escorts. At point-blank range, the duel became a brutal exchange of endurance, fortress against predator. On the lower decks, Marines fought off wave after wave of boarding parties. Alien warriors forced breaches into corridors, their roars echoing through steel halls. Human defenders fired relentlessly, grenades rattling, bodies falling. The ship groaned like a living beast under strain, but it did not yield. The battle reached its climax when the Resolute broke through the last defensive ring. Only the Vengeful Oath remained between humanity and victory. "Enemy flagship within range," Hale reported, her voice tight with exhaustion. "Lock weapons," Veyron said. His eyes never left the viewport, where the Dominion behemoth loomed. "And patch me through to their bridge." A moment later, Archduke Cyrix's scaled visage filled the holoscreen. His eyes glowed with rage. "So," he hissed, "the Mudborn dares to confront me directly. You came to teach us fear," Veyron replied evenly. "Instead, you've learned we are not prey." Cyrix's mandibles curled into a sneer. "Your species is a spark in the void. One fleet, one victory, means nothing against the power of the Council. I will grind your kind into dust." Veyron leaned forward, voice like a blade. "You won't live to try." The channel cut. The Resolute unleashed its fury. Plasma lances and rail batteries tore across the Dominion flagship, stripping away layers of armor. The Vengeful Oath answered with overwhelming fire, ripping into the human vessel's flanks. Hull plating buckled, alarms screamed, but neither side broke. Hale shouted, "Weapons overheating! Core stress rising! Push it!" Veyron ordered. "Every gun, every missile, now!" The air trembled with the roar of unleashed power. Human strikes tore into the warbarge's engines, fire erupting from its massive flanks. Still, The Dominion refused to retreat. Xyrix stood among the flames of his crumbling bridge, refusing to yield. "Divert power from life support, feed the cannons! I will not fall to these vermin!" His officers hesitated, terror in their eyes. He struck one down with his claw. "Obey!" The war barge shuddered as it poured everything into one final barrage. On the Resolute, the deck heaved under the assault. Consoles burst, crew thrown from their stations. Hale staggered, blood streaking her face. "Direct hit! We've lost half our batteries!" Veyron steadied himself against the command rail, gaze fixed on the burning Dominion flagship. Victory was close, but survival hung by a thread. "Target their bridge," he ordered. "End it." The Resolute's remaining lances fired in unison. Blinding beams cut through the vengeful Oath, ripping open its central tower. The Dominion flagship split in two, its heart consumed by fire. On Xyrix's bridge, flames consumed consoles, and the great Archduke staggered. Even in defeat, he roared his defiance. "This changes nothing! The galaxy will never—" The explosion swallowed his words. The vengeful Oath detonated, a sun blooming in the void. For a long moment, silence fell across the battlefield. Dominion ships scattered, their command gone, their will broken. Some fired in desperation before surrendering. Others fled into the dark. The tide had turned. On the Resolute, battered and scarred, cheers erupted across the bridge. Hale leaned back in her chair, voice trembling. "He's gone! Their fleet is broken!" Veyron did not smile. He looked out at the wreckage drifting like tombstones around Velis 9. The cost was heavy, lives extinguished on both sides. Yet humanity still stood. "Signal the enemy," he ordered quietly. "Those who surrender will be spared. The rest will share Xyrix's fate." Hours later, the battlefield was silent. Velis 9's skies cleared, the last Dominion wrecks burning out in the atmosphere. Survivors cheered from shelters, tears of relief spilling down faces that had expected annihilation. Humanity had done the impossible. In the council chamber across the galaxy, the mood was far different. Reports of the defeat spread like wildfire. Delegates who once mocked humans now whispered in fear. "They destroyed a Dominion war barge?" one counselor stammered. "With a fraction of their numbers," another replied, voice shaken. The chamber trembled with unease. The council had underestimated Earth, and now the truth was undeniable. Humanity was no longer a nuisance. It was a power. Aboard the Resolute, Admiral Veyron stood alone at the viewport. Beyond, stars glittered against the graveyard of ships. His reflection stared back at him, eyes shadowed with fatigue but burning with resolve. Lyra Hale approached, her voice soft. "We did it. Velis 9 is safe." Veyron's gaze did not waver. "Safe for now. But they'll come again. Next time with greater numbers, greater fury." She hesitated. "And when they do?" His answer was steady, without doubt. "Then we remind them again." He let silence settle, the wreckage drifting before him like a warning to any who might challenge Earth. Humanity had been tested in fire, and fire had answered. "Let them remember this day," he murmured. "The day they learned we are hunters, not prey." The void stretched ahead, endless and waiting. For the first time, it felt like humanity's domain.